What can we all learn from this, from following the IRS Instagram account? There's a lot of value in referencing current events, and there's a lot of value in not taking yourself too seriously. A lot of times in the creative industry, what they encourage is focusing on highlighting your portfolio. So putting Instagram Reels together, posting about new website launches, different things like that. And the problem is with accounting firms is that concept does not necessarily translate. You cannot necessarily post about great financial statements that you put together or how you saved a client so much money. They may not want that information out there in the public. So I want to talk about some ways that you can highlight the clients that will let you talk about them and do it in some ways that still respect their privacy and allow you to really show how you put your best foot forward.
Welcome to the Media Books Podcast, the only place on the internet where creative accounting isn't a bad thing. Owning a virtual firm today means having a professional and modern online presence, and in this podcast, we talk about how to do just that. My name is Kristen Corey, and I'm the owner of Media Books, a media agency that provides creativity exclusively to accounting firms. And if you're an accounting firm owner, you're in the right place. Let's get into it.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Media Books Podcast. In this podcast episode, I'm going to be talking about portfolio alternatives for accounting firms. A great way to build credibility is with a portfolio. And this is really common in sort of creative fields, but what are you supposed to do if you own an accounting firm? You can't necessarily post great financial reports that you put together. So let's talk about some alternatives and ways that you can build credibility online. Okay, so for this headline, for this episode, I actually want to talk about the IRS's Instagram account. If you are not on Instagram, it may be worth just creating an You can actually still log on, or you can still see their portfolio. Even if you don't have an Instagram account, you just go to instagram.com/IRS news. And if you do have Instagram, go follow them, because whoever is running this account is doing a fantastic job at capturing people's attention. And there are a few examples that I want to talk through as I talk about their profile. But here's the thing. I just want to start with, this is the IRS. They aren't necessarily known for creating captivating content, for having really like webinars that you just can't miss. It's very tax heavy, rough content. However, specifically with their Instagram account, I noticed they don't necessarily do this with all of their social media, but specifically with their Instagram account, they create content that is funny, relatable. There's like inside jokes. And I want to talk about some of these kind of different posts. 6 days ago, they made a post where it's just like the IRS logo and then like a blue fuzzy background. And at first you're like, what is this? And then the caption reads, "G'day, mate. If you're raising kids, you may be eligible for special IRS tax breaks for real life. Whether you brought a bundle of joy home from the hospital, adopted a teen from foster care, or are raising your grandchild, you may qualify for credits and deductions that help you offset some dollar bucks. Hold on to your beans and head over to the link in our bio for more info." If you are a parent, you probably get that reference. There are multiple references in this caption that relate to a very popular cartoon called Bluey. And Bluey is having a moment because they just released a really fantastic episode. But this really speaks to, they do this multiple times. And what they're doing here is they're doing multiple things. One, they're speaking in current event terms. Bluey is having a moment with parents right now. You know, they're popular and trending on social media. So they're finding a way to kind of stay in the conversation with what's going on in current news. The second thing that they're doing is that they aren't coming out and blatantly saying, "Hey guys, Bluey here," and making some really obvious or corny jokes. The language that they use is so subtle that you would only recognize it if you have watched the show with or without your kids, which is really telling that this is not just something that they copied and pasted or they asked for from ChatGPT. They are finding ways to relate to you without saying, hey guys, if you're a parent just like me, here are some ways I save money. Instead, they're finding a funny way to do it that kind of taps into humor, that taps into things like inside jokes, an inside conversation that you may not know about unless you're a parent. We do something similar with this at Media Books, memes, and trying to find ways to signal to you guys that we speak accounting is something that we're constantly trying to do because we specifically serve accountants. And I want it to be known that we speak your language. So, I mean, in the past, we've done memes where it's like we've talked about stuff like your tax client is asking if a pet is a tax deduction. I have a meme with like a tax preparer and a bookkeeper hugging and trying to just really kind of do subtle cues that say, hey, we are part of your industry. We are part of the conversation. And the IRS Instagram account is doing that really well. Something else that they have is that kind of relates to their current topics and kind of relating to being with the inside joke is they'll also do graphics that are in like the Mean Girls, like the movie, font and branding, but it says tax records. And this was back during January 12th when the Mean Girls movie came out. They're tapping into current events, news that's going on, things that are already showing up on your feed, but it's heavy IRS tax content. They also have an image where it's like the Stanley mug that everyone's like paying $100 for. When that was going on, and there was this whole craze of people spending, hundreds of dollars on these mugs, they posted something relative to that content. And here's what's so interesting about this is I have seen multiple accountants and bookkeepers reshare these posts saying this is so funny that the IRS is doing it. People are liking it, people are commenting and engaging. And this is all part of their marketing strategy. They don't have any like person or face on the account. These are all graphics and ways that they're finding to relate to a bigger conversation that's going on. And people are finding it entertaining. They're reading the content. And here's the thing, they have 155,000 followers. I don't think they would have this many followers if they weren't doing this sort of quirky, trending, current events type content. So, what can we all learn from this, from following the IRS Instagram account? There is a lot of value in referencing current events, and there's a lot of value in not taking yourself too seriously. Again, the IRS, when you think about the IRS, you're thinking ugly gray suits. They're probably in a building with no windows, government issued chairs, bland coloring. You're not thinking of people making funny memes like they are doing with this Instagram account. And they definitely leave an impression. So I would go check it out. Take hints from how they're using current events to talk about boring topics. Because I think it's a great example. And whoever is over there putting this together is doing some pretty hilarious content. Hey guys, it feels like I took a break, but I wanted to say I am back, but I guess I've been posting podcast episodes for a while. I am no longer, again, I am back. Let me rephrase that. I am back in the States, finally. If you are watching this, I am no longer in my apartment in Japan. I am now at my parents' house, which is an upgrade in the fact that, hey, like living at your parents' house when they're retired, you're probably pretty comfortable. The fridge is always stocked. You have your nice, comfy old bed. I'm in my dad's office right now. If you're watching on video, you probably see a million books behind me. They're not my books. They are my dad's books. And I am currently staying here in California for the next few months until I have my baby, in which case I will continue my move to New Mexico. So this is going to be kind of our podcast setup for a while. If you are a military spouse, let this just be evidence that you can make it work no matter where the military sends you. So having said all that, I'm very happy to be back in the States. If you've been following me on Instagram, you know that pretty much all of my stories have been all the food that I've been missing. I've been posting about crumble cookies, which I had for the first time the other day. Frankly, I'm unimpressed. Like, they were good, but for the hype, I'm disappointed. I love like an underbaked Toll House cookie so much more, but they were good. I had Costco pinwheel the other day. Those were amazing. Those are always so good. What else did I have? I had In-N-Out, I had Chipotle. Things are much more expensive than they were 3 years ago. So good job on you guys for profiting still, because everything is like $20 a meal out here. And it definitely was not like that in Japan. So it's been a little bit of an adjustment, and a lot of my focus has been on food for the past 2 weeks, but I'm sure I'll have more food stories to come. Today's topic: portfolio alternatives for accounting firms. When I'm trying to learn about how to grow my business, a lot of times in the creative industry, what they encourage is focusing on highlighting your portfolio and really focusing in on the more projects that you want more of. So putting, Instagram reels together, posting about new website launches, different things like that. And the problem is with accounting firms is that concept does not necessarily translate. You cannot necessarily post about great financial statements that you put together or, how you saved a client so much money. They may not want that information out there in the public, even if you talk in more abstract terms and you don't use the client by name. So I want to talk about some ways that you can highlight the clients that will let you talk about them, and do it in some ways that still respect their privacy and allow you to really show how you put your best foot forward. And so I'm going to go through 3 different ways. And the first way is really the most obvious, and that's testimonials. But I want to share a few tips on how to collect testimonials and showcase them in the best way. So first is when you do request testimonials, I recommend using your Google business page for 2 reasons. One is this is going to help you with SEO. Whenever you type in, bookkeeping services near me or a restaurant near me, Google is going to give preference to those businesses that have reviews. As you scroll down through the list, you'll notice the farther you get down, people have less or no reviews. The ones that have the most reviews are going to be the ones at the top of the list for the most part. So having reviews on your specifically Google business page helps a lot. Another popular place that people request reviews is their Facebook page. And not that this is necessarily a bad place, but I have experienced, and I've seen multiple clients experience issues in the past with people spamming the review section with junk. A common one, I think a couple years ago was, hey, this person helped me save $1,000 so much by increasing my credit score, and then I made $1 million. If you want to learn more, contact me at this phone number and this email. And this person had no affiliation with the business. It was simply a place that they could plug spam and scams, knowing that it is going to be very difficult for the owner of the Facebook page to get that taken down. At MediaBooks, it got to the point where I had a couple reviews for MediaBooks, but we would have like 10, 15 spam reviews, and trying to get them to take down these reviews was impossible. If you've ever tried to get anything taken down off Instagram or Facebook, they make it so difficult. And if you think about reviews, they're just going to make it even more difficult. So typically I advise avoiding Facebook pages. Google business pages are actually a lot better at preventing spam. So that's my reservation with Facebook business pages. There's a con with Facebook business pages, and there's a pro with Google business pages. And then when it comes to how to kind of spread or share the testimonial, a couple things that you can do is post screenshots of the testimonial on your website. The reason I recommend doing this is sometimes when you just type out a review onto your website, aesthetically, brand-wise, it may look better. And there are times where I've done that and it looks appropriate. But posting screenshots of a testimonial can also really help improve the credibility of the testimonial. It's sort of proof saying, hey, yes, this anonymous person of their own free will wrote a review on my business, and I have posted it to my website. Another way to even boost this credibility even more is to include a button to your Google business page or your Facebook business page where people can read all of the reviews, and you can really say, hey, I didn't just post the good reviews on my website. I'm giving you a direct link to where everyone posts reviews, and you can see I have 5 stars and I'm good to my word. So those are kind of a few ways that you can give a little boost to your credibility when it comes to testimonials. There's also non-traditional testimonials like videos. It's a fantastic way that you can build credibility and have it on your website. If you helped a client save a lot of money and you really made like an amazing impression, I would ask for a video review. You can strategically place this on your website, and it's one way that people can learn just a little bit more about how you help businesses. Another kind of way that you can do testimonials, and not in the necessarily traditional sense where people leave a review on Google or Facebook, is if someone sends you a text message or an email like, "Hey, thank you so much for getting that to me so quickly. I'm sorry I was late. I was really crunched for time, but you really helped save my business. You're awesome. I love working with you." Something that's casual and not necessarily a formal testimonial is still a great way for you to build credibility, and still a great sort of praise that you can share with your clients. And this doesn't necessarily need to take up space on your website, but maybe it makes a great social media post or image that you include in an email campaign. So whenever you get praise like that, text message, email, highly recommend taking a screenshot of it and saving it for a future marketing purpose. A second way that you can sort of have a portfolio for your accounting firm is to create some case studies. And how I would approach this is start with clients who have expressed that you have helped them a lot, how you've helped them, with their taxes or bookkeeping, whatever. Those are great places to start and be like, "Hey, I'm so glad I was able to help you with your issue. Is it okay if I do a case study on this issue? I have a lot of other clients that are experiencing the same challenge. I would love if I can explain it more while still being respectful of your privacy, not necessarily talking numbers, maybe, maybe not, but is that okay?" They'll most likely say yes. And then there are a couple ways that you can display or show this information. One is you can do a blog post. This is great if SEO is part of your website strategy. It's also great if you maybe are crunched for time and you want to outsource this work to a staff member or a marketing contractor that you work with. You can have a blog post where it really lays out a lot of the details, and you can send the questions directly to the client and they can just respond. So it's also great if you are crunched for time, you just don't have a lot of time to maybe sit down with them and do any sort of audio recording. Blog posts can also be a great way to include visuals if it's appropriate for what you want to share. Something else you can do is if you have a podcast, interview them. I have done in the past interviews with clients who are really happy with our work. And this is something that you can definitely do as well. You can do an interview with your clients. You can talk about how you help them. There's a ton of different ways that you can kind of approach the conversation. But podcast, having them as a guest is a great way to get a little case study in. And if you don't have a podcast, you can still do a video and post it to a YouTube account and have, it just play on there, or you can have it as a video that's on YouTube, but then feature it in a blog post or feature it somewhere on your website. So there's a lot of different ways that you can kind of approach this. Video content could be really great just because it will be more of a way for people to connect versus in a blog post where it's just texting and typing. When you do sort of video content or even audio content, you're going to get a more clear communication in how people are feeling and be able to connect with them better. So I definitely recommend either video or audio. And then if that's not a good option, going to the blog post option. And when you talk about these subjects and you have the case study and you're trying to put it together and you're figuring out what sort of questions you can ask, I want to go through some different approaches that you can talk with them about. First, you can talk with them about what their accounting or bookkeeping process was like prior to you entering the picture. This gives them a chance to relate to people who may be reading or listening to the episode. You can ask them what is the primary reason that they reached out. This is another little way for them to sort of help you sell. You can have them share a aha moment that you help them with. So wins obviously are going to do really well. How did you help with their understanding around accounting, bookkeeping, taxes? A lot of times business owners feel like, I am the only person that does not understand this. I am the only person that has not paid their taxes or doesn't keep on top of their bookkeeping. And by asking these sort of questions, you're going to show that, hey, you're definitely not the only person facing this issue, but there is a solution and I am part of that solution. If your client is comfortable, they can talk about how you help them cut expenses, generated income, lowered their tax liability, any sort of different pain points like that, things that you really want to highlight. And it could also be beneficial to talk about these subjects or these questions beforehand. Not only do you have to do less editing, but it could also just make the conversation flow more naturally in knowing what you should and should not talk about. Like so many remote workers, I am picky when it comes to my tech. I want a simple user interface, something that integrates with all the apps I'm already using, and I don't want to be nickel and dimed for every feature. I have run campaigns for plenty of accounting firms and used nearly every app under the sun, but for the past 4 years, I have been using Flodesk at MediaBooks. Flodesk offers a minimalistic user interface that does not cut back on any features. With workflows, automations, email campaigns, and advanced analytics, all for one price, I have no plans on switching anytime soon. And if you want to check out Flodesk, you can get 50% off for your first year by simply clicking the link in the show notes. The third way that you can really bring together a portfolio for your accounting firm is to actually do a demo portfolio. How this works is essentially you would put together dummy reports of what it could look like if you were to work with a potential client. So this could be ideal if you have a niche. You can show relatable examples. You can show how you do custom reports and what those could look like, really giving people visuals. This is going to be great for visual learners. And also, if you want to illustrate how really abstract concepts can make big differences. So for example, if someone is dealing with sales tax and they've never heard of TaxJar, you can put together a video or a few screenshots to show how TaxJar makes the process really simple. And yes, this is kind of promoting different apps, but really it's showing your mastery of different applications and how you can make them work for your client's business. Most business owners know income statement, balance sheet to a degree, but you can even get more detailed with this. You can show what a forecast report looks like and how explaining this report to them or explaining different even items on the income statement and balance sheet, how they stand out, or while maybe they're just looking at profit, they really need to understand cost of goods sold versus expenses. And, then why is profit at the end like this? And kind of talking through those reports. You can show a chart of accounts. So a great example is if you have a niche and let's say they have a lot of SKUs and you want to show, hey, you don't necessarily need an account for every single SKU that you have. Organizing it this way for this particular industry is going to make the information more digestible and understandable. Man, I had a flashback just to one of my clients, and during my bookkeeping days, they had an account for every single product that they sold, and trying to reverse engineer the years of bookkeeping and why they decided to set up their chart of accounts like this was maddening. And so explaining how you can make the information really easy to understand, how their reports are going to be so much easier to, I know I keep saying digest and understand, but I mean, you're an accountant, you've been there. You know what it's like when you look at a crazy chart of accounts and the clients don't even use their income statement or balance sheet because they've created a mess. And so showing how things should look, showing how things could look is a really great way to sort of do a case study without actually doing a case study. And it's a similar concept that web designers use. For example, when web designers are just getting started, a lot of people will encourage them to just create a website for a fake brand. Make up a business, make up a restaurant, make up a creative agency, and just create a website for them just to show people what you can do. And the idea is for you to do the same thing. Create a fake business, show what their financial reports could look like and how you stepping in can help make their lives easier and make this more digestible. You could do a demo meeting, show an example report, talk about what the discussions would look like, and things that you can talk about based on the report. The whole idea here is for you to stand out. With all the different things I talked about, talked about testimonials and case studies and demos, the idea here is to show what makes your voice unique and give people a little taste at what it's like to work with you. I'm very intentional in making sure whatever marketing tips and tricks I share are tailored to the accounting industry. And as a result, I have built a pretty awesome community of accountants and bookkeepers. And while I love sharing advice on how to improve your website or capture the next great lead, I know you may have other challenges facing your firm, which is why I love partnering with other service and product providers that support the accounting industry. If you are one of those professionals that focuses on serving accountants, I want you to know that MediaBooks now provides multiple advertisement opportunities. You can promote your podcast, app, or services on the MediaBooks podcast or our newsletter and grow your reach. To learn more, visit mediabooksagency.com/sponsors or check out the link in our show notes. There you can find our media kit and apply to be a sponsor. MediaBooks, the only place on the internet where creative accounting isn't a bad thing.